Good morning. Welcome everybody to our second edition of Nextv Series Caribbean 2022. My name is Juan Pablo Conti, and I am the Director of Events North America at Dataxis. We are webcasting live, and we really want to thank all of the executives joining us today from across the Caribbean and beyond. For those of you accessing one of our virtual conferences for the first time, you should know that the Swapcard platform that you are using will not only allow you to watch each of the discussion sessions in the program, but you will also be able to network, share experiences, and exchange ideas with the rest of the attendees and speakers. So be sure to make the most out of these two. I would also like to especially thank this event's official sponsors, Broadpeak, for their ongoing support. We have a very exciting opening panel, which we have titled The Road of Pay TV Operators to Super Aggregation. To help us understand where we are in this area, I will be talking with 4 companies with a strong tradition of offering pay TV and telecom services in the Caribbean. 2 of them are among the largest players in the region, with operations spanning several islands, while the other 2 are local cable companies located in Jamaica and Haiti. It all promises to be a very interesting debate about one of the hottest issues in the world of paid video distribution these days. So let's introduce our guests, panelists, without further delay. George Sembry is the Group CEO of Home and Entertainment of Digital Group. Thierry Hippolyte is the CEO of Nextv, joining us out of Port-au-Prince in Haiti. Anthony Graham is the founder and CEO of Hometime Entertainment, Jamaican cable operator. He's also the chairman of the Jamaica Association of Community Cable Operators. And Alexander van Tienhoven is the Director CVP Entertainment at Cable and Wireless Communications, joining us out of Miami. Welcome, gentlemen. George, let's start with you. Being an aggregator is not really something new for pay TV operators. At the end of the day, operators have always offered television content by aggregating initially linear TV channels and distributing them through a set-top box. That's the classic model the business has been operating for a few decades now. How do you see this new world of video app aggregation? How does the business change for operators, and how is Digicel adapting to this new trend?
I'd just like to say a good morning to everyone, especially those ones where it's, in the region, just 7 o'clock. So,
good morning.
So great to be here, and Juan, thank you for the invite. I would start before addressing the video app that what is integration means, and aggregation. In Digicel Group, we have several companies which is starting from content creation. So in this aggregation, where you are starting from the content creation, then the programming, then what platform you are using, and how you are monetizing it, what I see that you have to make your choices much stronger because of the technology changes, what we discussed in the last 2-3 years. There are areas where simply there is not enough scale that you can play, even if you are such a player with multiple countries in this region. We are 24 countries. But there are areas what you have to strengthen regardless of the technology, because it can create differentiation for yourself. Okay, and it's mostly in the content and the local content part. While in the applications, and I consider TV is just an application, to be honest, because everything is about the IP networks and how you're using in the homes, and how you are using with the mobile networks, and what applications you are putting on that. The same stands that what applications make sense for you to create, and what application doesn't make sense for you to create. we are a big company, but we cannot compete with 9 billion content spend of Netflix or Amazon. But there are things what these guys are not doing if I'm just talking about entertainment streaming. For me, it's much more about than the classic movie entertainment streaming. It's including also the local news, not forgetting sport and the importance of local sports as well. And when we're talking about local news, then you have also opportunities how to create different applications for that. So if I want to have a one-liner, in this aggregation, even if you are a big player, you have to pick your places. And other than what I emphasized the last 2 times, the technical challenges and how to accommodate your total ecosystem for that, you have to strengthen those areas where you want to differentiate. That's how I see that.
Okay, thanks for that. And I'll get back to the specifics of those technical challenges later on in the discussion. Alex, Cable and Wireless Communications has also been busy working on its own OTT super aggregation in the Caribbean, very recently with a new Paramount Plus exclusive deal added to a long-standing partnership that you've had with HBO Max. What is the strategic importance of these new types of video offerings for operators?
Yeah, thank you, Juan. Good morning, everyone. No, indeed. Look, and Paramount, as you know, is a mountain. So it's a mountain of content, and there's this saying: if the mountain won't come to Muhammad, then Muhammad will come to the mountain. And that's sort of what we did here, because this is clearly the result of some streaming services that are simply not coming to the Caribbean yet. Their plans are not focused on the Caribbean yet, but that doesn't mean that they're not willing to do a good deal of bringing actually their content to the Caribbean. And that's actually the opportunity that we saw. That's actually what we did here. And I think just providing people, it's like you said, you need to make the right choices. And I think this was one of the choices where we said, let's do this for our customers. Let's bring this amazing content to the region, to our customers. And because of that, it's automatically strategically very important, because we did something that was probably not going to happen for the next coming period, and therefore made it strategically important for us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anthony, you have several years of experience owning and managing cable TV and telecom companies in the Caribbean and also in the US. Currently leading the home time cable operations in Jamaica. What potential do you see for the use of internet-based technology to deliver video? And what challenges do community cable operators face in the Caribbean to carry out this sort of transformation?
Thank you, Juan. Morning, everyone, and thank you for having me first.
Morning.
Before I answer that question, I think I have to just give a small refresher of internet. Since its introduction to the public or the wider public coming out of the education scenario and the government, it has changed the dynamics of everything we know as telecom. It's somewhat has killed just about any technology in telecom that we knew before. At the time, there were some very, very crafty network technologies, and all of them went away, only leaving 2, and that is Internet Protocol and what we call Ethernet for the local networking. And what that means is that any package, any message can be routed anywhere using the internet. And it will get you to the road, and the only surviving technology, possibly during its time or before its time, is Ethernet. And that is what will find your gate on the road. I say all of that to say, why would video be any different? Video is just another message or another package. And once you can package it, the internet will route it to its destination. And therefore, it would be useless for anyone with sense to either duplicate or run a parallel system to carry the video. So it is quite appropriate that video needs to be part of the internet. And therefore, the operators have already been tuning in as to how to carry the video. So yes, we want to get rid of the satellite system that is the access to video as it is for most part now, and use the more convenient method, which is the internet. And therefore, the opportunities are great along that line. However, there are some challenges for our community cable operators. The number one challenge is that in order to access the video content, you have to have some upstream video access. And that is done at the carrier level. And that access is very, very expensive. While internet is taken for granted across some countries, it is a very expensive venture, especially in Jamaica, to have access. So that's one of the biggest challenge. The other challenge is one of policy in Jamaica. The cable industry is regulated by the Broadcasting Commission, while the internet industry is regulated by our Office of Utility Regulators, OUR. And as a result, there are two independent licensing bodies. It therefore means that a community cable operator that has a video license do not technically has an internet license. And at the same time, the platform for video has changed. And therefore, it should be automatic that they are given internet license, because just to access and to deliver require internet-based technology. So those are the challenges. But yes, we do see a lot of opportunities, and we are very optimistic that it will happen.
Okay, thanks for that. Just one question about that last point. Is that very specific to Jamaica, you said, that situation where you have differentiated licensing for connectivity essentially and video, or do you think it's widespread throughout the Caribbean?
To be honest with you, I can't give you a definite answer, but because of our, I don't want to use the word copycat behavior, but our synergy among islands, I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same manner. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, there are not a lot of markets in the Caribbean that are regulated like Jamaica is. So that makes Jamaica a special case in that sense.
Highly regulated market. Okay, thanks for that. Thierry, New TV in Haiti has been planning to launch a complementary OTT video service to its traditional pay TV operations. What's the status of this project, and what functionality will the new service offer to your subscribers?
Good morning, everybody, and
morning.
Thanks for having me. Indeed, we are in the implementation phases of our OTT project. This is something that we believe that is going to be complementary, as you said, to our existing satellite offer. And our focus is really going to be on the key features as multiple profiling, adaptive bit rate, the recommendation, and then the pause, catch up, and the type of features. The idea for us really is to focus on that specific product line and the entertainment and content experience of the end user. As Anthony said, data was the revolution, and now content within the form of the application and video streaming is definitely taking that next step. So we really want to get on board with that and offer our customers that that continuous ecosystem of entertainment, focus on the experience and streamlining their viewing capabilities.
Okay, thanks for that. George, let me now go back to those main operational challenges that operators face to support this new full IP-based way of delivering video. What are those? Give us some specific examples of operational challenges that come into play here.
I want to approach it from three angles. Okay, one of the geography, and when you're operating in multiple countries, it's not all of them are greenfield. You know, you have acquisitions, you have different regulatory environment, as it was just mentioned, and how you accommodated your systems to be compliant with that, or what you had from the past. Can be a challenge, and I come to that. Okay, so you know, for example, what kind of billing system you have to have, or what kind of provisioning system. then the second, that how you are selecting the technology, because as I said, nothing is greenfield. In case of Digicel, just in applications, we have our 8 own applications we are bundling for the mobile users, and I was just not talking about the home users. And what you're preferring and how you're creating the backend for all of that. And when you're going to, it's just talking about in-house, and then comes the third parties, you know, what you want to focus on. It's very interesting to see that, you know, we talked about Paramount, we have been working for 2 years now, and HBO Max the same. But with the other applications, they have different requirements. You think that you're creating a platform where you are creating a certain point where you are have this interface, but they request different things. So you cannot have the same approach everywhere. So I don't want to list the other applications now, but it's funny enough, I thought that it's going to be more simple than HBO Max. So how you are consolidating these elements and cutting through this jungle and making tough decisions, it's very tough, because you don't want to spend the fortune of you know, meeting everyone's demands. Obviously, are picking bigger markets, what you prefer, and in our case, most of them are English-speaking markets, but we have this other dimension, which is also making the choices being Dutch or French or Spanish. So, you know, if you ask me, I'm very proud how we are progressing here. But at the same time, if we're talking in-house, and maybe I have some colleagues who logged in, I'm extremely impatient and frustrated. So, because, you know, we can explain all these things and I can talk about that and but at the end of the day, what does matter is the customer experience. They don't care about it. They want to have easy access and easy to handle that. In some cases, that's why my conclusion is maybe it doesn't make sense, the integration and aggregation, even if it sounds very, very nice and cool marketing-wise. And in some cases, it's so obvious that you have to have that integration, not just because everywhere in the Caribbean, the last 5-8 years, they have been selling only smart TVs for the big screen, and the mobile, you know, the penetration of smartphones are increasing. And one more point, when I'm talking about the 8 applications, it's not just about the classic entertainment streaming. You know, there are other apps which you have to integrate into that, which has increasing video content as well, no matter if it's a music app, no matter if it's a news app. But again, you know, we love these challenges. It would be so boring if you were just buying things off the shelf, you put it together and then you sell it as, you know, like a hamburger, you know? It's not so easy. And then you can moderate it also with your internet capabilities. So I cannot tell you new things compared to last year, other than you see much more clear what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And you make these choices every day, that what you want to do and what you don't want to do. I'm not going to throw big names now here, if you don't mind, but it's a very interesting learning, you know, how you integrate yourself into this sphere with the OTT guys, because obviously they consider themselves bigger than even a big regional telecom player.
Yeah, you explained it very well. Always bringing in interesting new angles. Alex, talking about the introduction of new technologies to support these new ecosystems, whatever ultimate shape the new ecosystems have, as George is clearly stating, nobody knows at the moment. But one important element in cable and wireless regional video strategy, when I say regional, is beyond the Caribbean, has been the development of an Android TV-based set-top box. You initially launched in some of your most developed operations, thinking of Puerto Rico and Chile, I think were the original markets where you launched this. Are you planning to also roll out this same service across the Caribbean? And if you do, how do you prioritize between the different, I think it's 15 different markets that you are operating in right now? What's the status of that project, Alex?
Yeah. So we've just launched that platform in Grenada, and
Okay.
and the reason for that is because Grenada was on a very old video platform. So you're talking about one-way video, so people could only zap channels, and they're basically really going from the Stone Ages straight into the future, of course, with this platform. So, and that's going to be a very interesting test for us. It's going to just we're going to learn a lot from that. We're going to see how people actually like it, to be able to not only just see watch linear channels, but also have access to Netflix, Disney Plus, etc. on the same set-top box. So that's going to be a very interesting learning for us. And based on that, look, we have a lot of markets. Technologically, there are differences between the markets, what kind of platforms they're on, and that is really what's driving also the decision around this. But I think it's also important to look at the markets individually, say that some markets are more traditional than other markets. And I think Grenada is one of those markets which is quite a traditional TV market. And because of that, we've decided to launch the platform there. Yeah.
Okay. Anthony, do you see a business case for super aggregation of third-party OTT services? Such as, we've named some of them here, the HBO Max, Disney Plus, Netflix, Amazon Prime. If you do, what sort of technical or business challenges do operators face from your point of view?
Thanks, Juan. Listening to Georgia a moment ago, and could sense his frustration trying to paddle his way in this great sea of content and providers and owners. And, I can only narrow it down to one place. You can only focus on the subscriber and the customer. The good thing is that we as telecom operators have the direct access to the customer by way of the internet that we would have provided for them. They are the one who is trying to be a hassle-free experience, right, or engagement. They want to take up their remote, look for something they want to watch, and within less than 20 seconds, as the research would have shown, not frustrated that it's haven't loaded as yet. And also not spending that 20 minutes, that 20% of search time that the research have shown that clients spend up to 20% of their time searching for content, and as a result, only 80% watching what they want. So when we zero in on the client, that is what is pushing all of this back end, almost impossible behavior. There are some goods in all of this. When the streaming service started, say, somewhere in its high tide, YouTube probably about 17 years ago, and Netflix probably about 7 or 8 years ago. We, the telecom operators, suffered. We suffered because of the crave of the clients for this streaming content, and at the same time rides on a network that we built that look internet, and look internet means email, Google search, and so on. So this massive movement of data, video data, was choking us. Not was it only choking us, but it was also killing our business because we are video providers. And at the same time, you are providing for these clients and they are skipping what you are providing because it's too linear and consuming your expensive bandwidth on the back end. And as a result, we were struggling. So it is refreshing to hear of this super aggregation, where at least in this aggregation process, you're linear. Yes, you will migrate to some level of streaming your linear, but at least your content become part of this aggregation process. And also, it brings to the table these streamers, these operators, providers, streaming providers, OTT providers, that your facilities, your infrastructure is what is breathing life into their business. And yet they are independent of your business. And therefore, I think that the whole notion of super aggregation is a way of bringing the players to the table to say, yes, we are who accommodate your business. Now is the time for you to notice us, right? And to have some level of ratio of sharing the revenue. So I am for it from that perspective. In terms of the business and the technical, as George just said, having all these different platforms trying to integrate into one platform with the billing system and the backend, it can be also challenging. And I can see where this could be very, very challenging for the community operators. No one community operator could do this on their own. And it would not make sense for the level of customer base that one would have. So it needs to be some level of consortium, some level of togetherness. I don't know if George wants to take up that challenge, and propagate it across the platform. But those would be some of the challenges. It's more the back-end challenge than the hardcore technical challenge.
Makes a lot of sense. Thierry, are you also considering integrating third-party OTT services as part of the upcoming new TV offer? And what advantages and challenges do you see in these models? You're muted.
Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah. First of all, I'm an aggregation advocate, in my sense. I think that this is a very smart, and I like the way you talked about it. It's really we need to get to that entertainment collaboration, because at the end of the day, the most important person in that room is the end user, is the subscriber, the consumer. And being able to identify your niche as an operator, because you won't be able to satisfy everybody, and whether you're large or you're a local provider, you need to define exactly what's your niche and where you want to attack that. And from then on, those strategic partners, then it kind of makes sense of who you want to partner with, whether it should be the big players as in Netflix, the D+, HBO Max, or even the local content providers or operators that are going to that video streaming application. I think also from a customer standpoint, that OTT subscription fatigue, the aggregation also helps alleviate that. And of course, then you come into, okay, how does that revenue share goes? How do you integrate? And the entire billing experience for the customer, the self-service, how does he get access to that? Of course, with that, all these nice little advantages for the customer comes, challenges for us as an operator also, because everybody has their requirement, and everybody has their, the last mile. How do you provide it? And the big one has, a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of high technical requirements. And for smaller operators, there are certain barriers, and especially in the Caribbean, from content availability to a minimum subscriber base that they want to have. So all of these are factors that you need to take into account as an operator, but also define yourself position yourself within your niche and see, okay, what makes sense from a business perspective? How do you get that, profit margin from a big sale, but already at a customer level? How does that individual customer get satisfied while still being profitable for you as an operator?
Okay, and you just touched on content availability, which is something that I want to now move on, because traditionally the pay TV market in the Caribbean has historically faced a sort of content barrier, which is, well, customers expect to have access to the same services they see available in the US. As George was saying, most of the markets here English speaking, so they see this content available in the US, they want to access that content, but content owners on the other side have mostly not considered the Caribbean as part of their US distribution system. So you end up in this situation where expectations and market realities never really fully touch each other, right? So I'm wondering, is there a risk of a similar situation developing with the availability of OTT services? George, what do you think?
I'm happy to keep your order that you're always asking me. What if I'm going to be the last one to answer this?
We can perfectly do that. That's why we have a panel. So let's, Alex, do you want to take?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Absolutely. I see. Yes, these. We'll always have challenges in this region. Whether it started with getting the US channels into the region, and then you have companies like Turn and Discovery that give you their Spanish channels, their Spanish feeds, and then everybody in the Caribbean is not happy with that, and then you need to work on that, and then there's the OTT services that are not coming to the Caribbean. There's always challenges, but that makes, I think, this region a lot of fun in that sense. That's why I enjoy it, and I think but it also creates opportunities to differentiate, and we just have to be a little bit more cleverer than in some other regions of the world. But I think that challenge we will always have. Yes.
Anthony, I see you smiling. What do you think?
It's always interesting, and I like how Alex put it. It's not. It's fun. It's a very serious fun. People's livelihood are at stakes, and it has been really a challenge just to get the access to the channel, to content. In Jamaica, there are two large appetites when it comes to content, access. I don't know if it's because of our proximity to the United States, but we have a very big appetite for United States content. We also have a very big appetite for our local content. And regardless of what happened, it always shows that our local, even local TV channel is more watched than anything else. So we do have that.
Yeah.
But Alex's point that we are grouped from the United States perspective into what is called international. And once it's called international for the United States, in my mind, it is Spanish, right? And I don't know, while I personally don't mind being called the Caribbean and Latin America, but that is how we are looked at from the United States, the Caribbean and Latin America, not the Caribbean and not Latin America. All of Central America, South America, and the Caribbean is seen as one. And we cannot cry too hard to be disassociated so that we can get the subtitles, strictly English. We can't, because we are looking at scale. In the Caribbean, it's only about 40 million people, while in the Latin America, it's over 600 million people. So, in terms of business, it probably, look better for them to say the Caribbean and Latin America. But that has caused us a lot of grief. It's not easy to hear an 80-year-old lady call you and, Mr. Mr. Graham, why is this program in Spanish? Right? It's not very easy to deal
I love
with.
it.
Right? So we try to talk to the HBOs and the Turners and so on to let them understand that this is really just not right for our market.
Surely, Anthony, that's in the streaming world, it's an easier situation to sort out, right?
Yes.
One would think, subtitles in a streaming ecosystem,
Yes.
for sure there has to be a way to solve that, right?
Yes. So, it's a challenge. And again, the barrier to content is not just in terms of the language barrier, but also, we are always viewed as being so small, and therefore the business case for the larger provider don't seem to fit well. But I think that there's a way around it coming to the streaming, because the DVD and the TDM are grandfathers. Those times are behind us. It is all now about IP. And I think that the business people in IP are quite different. They might be still working for the big companies, but now it's a new generation who understand that the internet is not owned by anyone and used by everyone and developed by everyone. So with that, I think there will be, better access going forward in terms of even the small operators. Yes.
Okay. Theory, quickly on this issue, content availability, the challenges there.
Well, Anthony was talking about the appetite for the US market. I have French appetite also.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
the contents from Europe and French-based Africa also is another challenge. And very quickly, I think that this new era of entertainment, and I'm going back to what Georgie and Anthony said, the collaboration and understanding the position in the market. I think I think the time is appropriate to start having these discussions, maybe jointly, or at least starting to position our different needs in our different markets, because at the end of the day, whether it be just the geo-blocking or the content provider, the end subscriber is always going to find a solution, and the amount of money that they invest and blocking a certain access can be looked at differently from collaborating with your different OTTs and providing the end user with specific content, whether it be with a smaller premium or something that is interesting. But I think the time to sit down and have the discussions among the different operators in the Caribbean and Latin American is extremely important in terms of content availability for US markets, Europe, and across the globe.
Okay. George, you want to answer last?
Well, just I see that the time is running fast. So 2 points and a conclusion on this. Okay. Well, 1 point I'm just bringing up in what we are facing, and it's all about scale, and it was brought up by everyone. It's a scale game. So when in Bermuda there's a Portuguese-speaking minority from the Azores, or in Montserrat, which like 5,000 people, they want to see the same British channels. There are things which are simply impossible, or no, everything is possible for a certain price. So, and I didn't repeat the things what I just heard, but it's scale. Okay, it's all about scale. Yes. So I think in platforms, I agree with the guys, and trust me, I'm not talking from the position of the big guy. The platforms will consolidate. I'm talking about the delivery platforms. So in this whole ecosystem, the partnership can be found somewhere else when you can have your own role, how you are creating or transmitting or doing something with the local content, which is very, very important. So in case of Thierry, to have enough Creole content, and not just in Haiti, but let's say in Turks and Caicos. I'm just saying an example. So, and here the IP helps a lot, okay? So scale, and from that you find your place. Sorry, back to my first point. And you find your place. I'm not jumping to the conclusion. The second point, yes, most of the American companies thinks it's their direct market, even if it's handled as part of LATAM, okay? So if we're talking about the applications, this is their direct-to-consumer marketing part for the big guys, and they have huge penetration as per their direct-to-consumer. So in some place, you don't even have a place to get into that system. In some cases, because of their rights, it's not available because they want to be compliant. And in some cases, they are just changing their business model. It's going to come to the Caribbean as well, or the other parts of the world, what Disney did in the Pacific. Simply, they closed the channels. They closed the channels, and it's only available by a Disney Plus or a certain. It's going to come if this is the strategy of that company. So there are different dimensions: direct-to-consumer rights, and it drives you where to find your place. And conclusion, that we are not always buying or working together with the apps. I was talking about the local content creation, but we also buy the content to use it legally, not via the channels, how they're programming the studios, and to use in our apps or solutions. And that's where there is a room also for more local content and not just US content. So what I'm saying, to be positive, not just to be positive, that you always find solutions to have access to the content. We always find legal solutions, but scale is the name of the game.
Okay. And you're right, we're running quickly, approaching our end of the discussion. We have 3 minutes more. One quick question, Alex, staying on content rights. What's the situation there, and what progress has been made in terms of the way that content rights are negotiated between the large media groups, usually US-based, and the operators? What challenges remain there, do you think, in terms of the way new negotiations are taking place right now?
Yeah, well, I think what you'll see is that, at least we've noticed that in terms of getting certain rights, and you need to differentiate. There's many rights that you discuss. There's in the home rights, where it doesn't matter whether you use IP or HFC to transmit the signal. It's that's one part. There's on-the-go rights. There's over-the-top rights, and all these rights. But we've noticed that content providers have been more willing to give more rights, without us having to pay more money for it. And I think that's a good move. And I think it's very logical because they also notice that, we're struggling. All the cable operators, all the TV operators are struggling. So they need to help us. They need to help us by giving us a bit more rights. So we have some flexibility to indeed innovate, to indeed deliver something over the top as well. And those are things that we've clearly see happening. But, as Georgi said, there are some content providers who just basically remove the channels from the region. But then at the same time, you say to you, yeah, but we can't give you access to our streaming service, and those are, yeah, and that's a difficult situation. Because that's where it stops, because you can't provide the same content to your customers anymore, and that is, I think, is the victim of that is our subscribers.
Thanks for that. I'd like to end, Anthony. We only have literally 1 minute, but to end with a very Caribbean idea that you have a concept talking about content tourism as something that can be exploited as a new business concept in the Caribbean. Can you, in 45 seconds, explain what it is, and so we can end with a very interesting new idea?
Thank you, Juan. Well, it's funny that I've been playing around with this, 2 words, content tourism. And last night, just before, I did a quick look up, and I noticed that, it's also 2 words coined in Japan a few years ago, However, instead of content tourism, it's content tourism. And the Japanese describe it as a Japanese word that more or less tourism with some culture-based interest, so to speak, to put it mildly. But for me, because tourism is our main product of the Caribbean, and over 30 million people visit the Caribbean yearly, in its heyday before COVID. And our the desire for Caribbean content, the desire for Caribbean way of life, Caribbean culture, Caribbean lifestyle is so vast among the world, and our diaspora is also so big around the world. I think that you know, we have explored a lot of tourism products, and now we should start looking at content tourism. You know, and what that is for me is to find some way of having tourists interest in some participation in the culture of the island they visit, whatever the area, and have it framed in a manner where they are actually a star in experiencing the culture. And I think that, you know, it will provide some level of you know, additional revenue in terms of these 30 million people coming to our islands every year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks for that. We had time to mention that. George, Thierry, Anthony, Alex, thank you very much. The time has flown. It's been a very interesting opening debate. So thank you to all four of you and to our audience for staying in. We invite you to also tune in for the rest of the sessions that we have planned for the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the invite.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That's lovely.
Okay.